So I'll give you a visual count.
Let's have an old-fashioned Christmas. Dress up an old-fashioned tree. Let's take the spirit of old lang syne and make it all that it used to be. Hearts will be light as a feather after some old-fashioned cheer. So let's all be good people together and have an old-fashioned Christmas this year. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. It's so great to be with you. Alex and I are back here again at Emerson Avenue Salons. We're so grateful to Jackie and Bill, who are running the whole show behind the scenes. And we're so grateful to all of you who've taken this time out of your busy holiday season to be back with us for our final concert of 2020. Hearts will be light as a feather after some old Christmas cheer. So let's all be good people together and have an old-fashioned Christmas this year. Thank you so much. You know, when I began this series with Alex, the applause in the background by these two wonderful people seemed a little silly, but I've really come to really feel quite affectionate for it because I know you're all applauding out there. Alex can feel it too, but it's nice to have a physical representation of it here in COVID land, the world of COVID presentation. So we have a sort of a Whitman sampler of tunes for you tonight to share with you, and some of these bonbons are non-holiday songs, and of course some of them are holiday songs as well. We'd like to start off tonight with a gift. I'm a faculty member at Howard University and also at Catholic University, and one of the things I teach my students who study musical theater is that every song is a gift to the audience. Don't go on the stage looking to aggrandize self or to become famous, because of course the likelihood is you're probably not going to become famous. But you can become a guilds person, an artisan who shares beauty with the world and changes lives. So always go out with the idea of giving a gift. And what better season than the one in which we find ourselves to do just that. To begin tonight, I'd like to invoke my personal muse. A little selfish moment here, Alex, sorry. But
that's quite all right. Go ahead.
My artistic muse was always my grandmother, Grace Frances Brown, who lived in southern central Virginia, and who, though financially she never made it to the big time, gave this little boy a lot of hope and a lot of heart and a lot of belief in the power of creativity in a life to make it much more magical and rich than one's bank account might show. So I invoke Grandma, come on down and be with me here tonight, my grandmother Grace. So I wanted to start tonight with a gift song, and one of our audience members has always enjoyed this little tune. It's a funny little tune called Piccolo Pete. There were a series of songs in the 19-teens and 20s that featured instrumentalists. There's Piccolo Pete, there's Sam the Accordion Man, Yuba played the rumba on his tuba, and of course Betty was booping all over the place. And we don't even know what booping is, so I'd better stop there because it may be illegal in 2020. You never know. So anyway, I couldn't think of this little girl's name, and I said to Alex, I said, gosh, I want to give this song to her because she's told us a few times that this is one of her favorite little numbers that we do. And I said, Alex, what is her name? And he said, Grace.
Gracie,
well,
Gracie.
There you go. Gracie, it's the same. Leave it to Alex to ruin a good moment. All right, let's go.
Go.
Come on, everybody, gather round and listen to the story of Piccolo Pete. He played the piccolo so pretty, all the people just gathered right out in the street. He learned his music from the birds and bees, midst the flowers and trees. That's why he has so many melodies, melodies that will please. Did you ever hear Pete go tweet, tweet, tweet on his piccolo? No? Well, you missed a lot, cause his melodies hot are the kind that couldn't be beat. Now listen, did you ever hear Pete go tweet, tweet, tweet on a piccolo? No? Well, you missed a treat, cause his melodies sweet are the kind that couldn't be beat. Now he can pick a high note, he can pick a low note, he can pick a blue note, da-da-da-da. He can pick a note that's a brand new note. Did you ever hear Pete go tweet, tweet, tweet on his piccolo? No? Well, let me put you wise. He's a bird in disguise, a bird called Piccolo Pete. Oh. Now he can pick a high note, he can pick a low note, he can pick a blue note, da-da-da. He can pick a note that's a brand new note. Did you ever hear Pete go tweet, tweet, tweet on his piccolo? No? Well, let me put you wise, he's a bird in disguise. Let me put you wise, he's a bird in disguise, a bird called Piccolo Pete. Why, thank you, both of you, and all of you out there in COVID land. So, I've been doing a lot of thinking, which is always dangerous, but I've been doing a lot of thinking as what are the positives that we can take out of these difficult times that we've been in? Because there really always is a silver lining to every cloud. And I think, it is to find that silver lining in every cloud. And of course, the image of a rainbow is important to a lot of folks in this world, gay people like myself, and also straight people and people that find themselves somewhere in between. It is a symbol of freedom and of beauty and of a colorful life. And it was featured quite prominently in songs of the 20s. The rainbows were always appearing, as you all know probably from 1939, Over the Rainbow. But there are many other rainbow songs. So as we started delving through our collection, I picked the first song. It's called I'm Always Chasing Rainbows. By the way, a wonderful recording of that by Miss Judy Garland. It comes from a place where I was when I was a young person, which was, woe is me. Life is terrible no matter what I do. It's a terrible tragedy. Boo-hoo. And then I found the next little song, which was featured by Annette Henshaw, who's one of the most charming performers of the 1920s. A very unassuming performer, but with a lovely, approachable, and yet sort of unassumingly virtuosic vocal style. And it's called If You Want the Rainbow, You Must Have the Rain. And I said, that really reminds me a lot of the philosophy I was raised with. I used to call my dad, especially in his later years, and I'd say, how's it going? And he'd say, I was doing really good, but I got over that. And of course, it would always make me laugh. And but sometimes when I'd call him and I had a burden on my heart, I'd say, Dad, this is so difficult. This life is so hard, whatever. And he said this to me, which characteristic of my father, a man of very few words, unlike his son, who once in a while would just come forward with this gem. And he said, Doug, life is a series of challenges separated by moments of celebration. And you have to make the most out of the celebration. So If You Want the Rainbow, You Must Have the Rain is a song that reminds you, you're going to have the hard times, but the art of life is what you do with those times. And then, of course, the final song is a very up-tempo, happy little ditty where the guy's wearing a rainbow around his shoulder because of what? He has found love. So here they are. They're going to be linked together. And pray for me. They're new to our repertoire. So if you see me go into a scat song, you know I have forgotten the words. Here we go. I'm always chasing rainbows, watching clouds drifting by. My dreams, they're just like all my schemes, ending in the sky. Some fellas look, they find the sunshine. I always look and find the rain. Some fellas make a winning sometime. I never seem to make a gain. Believe me, I'm always chasing rainbows, waiting to find a little bluebird in vain. Some fellows look, they find the sunshine. I always look and find the rain. Some fellows make a winning sometime. I never even make a gain. Believe me, I'm always chasing rainbows, waiting to find a little bluebird in vain. What does it matter if rain comes your way and pitter-patters all day? Listen, that rain descending should not make you blue. That happy ending is waiting for you. Take your share of trouble, face it, and don't complain. If you want the rainbow, you must have the rain. Happiness comes double after a little pain. Honey, if you want that rainbow, you must have the rain. What if your love affair should break up, as they sometimes will, when you kiss and make up? Oh, what a thrill! Sadness ends in gladness, sorrows are not in vain. If you want your rainbow, you must have the rain. Now listen, before the dawning, the sky is in tears. But then the morning appears. Yeah, a field of clover will nod in the rain. But when it's over, it's heads up again. Now you can look for threat of weather or watch for sun again. If you want that rainbow, honey, you're gonna have to have a little rain. Come on, sweetheart, pull yourself together, just whistle a happy strain. If you want your rainbow, you gotta have your rain. So if your lucky star deserts you, and if shadows fall, even though it hurts you, come on and laugh. Laugh at it all. Be a cheerful loser, you have the world to gain. If you want your rainbow, you just must have the rain. I'm happy, so happy, I'm walking on shoulder, and a sky of blue above. Oh, the sun shines bright, and I'm alright, 'cause I'm in love. I got a rainbow round my shoulder, and it fits me like a glove. Let it blow and storm, I'll be warm, 'cause I'm in love. Hallelujah, how the folks will stare when they see the little diamond solitaire that my little sugar baby is going to wear. Yes, sir, I've got a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky blue above, and I'm shouting so the world will know that I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love. Hallelujah, how the folks will stare when they see that diamond solitaire that my little sugar baby is going to wear. Yes, sir, I've got a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky of blue above, and I'm shouting so the world will know that I'm in love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I imagine most of you tuning in know us already, but if you don't know us already, I'm Doug Bowles. Of course, this is the world-famous novelty pianist, Mr. Alex Hassan. And you're about to get a chance to hear him do two fabulous numbers on the piano, which I will let him introduce. But it has been now for a decade or slightly more my honor to always share the stage with one of the very best in the world, Mr. Alex Hassan.
Well, shucks. Back again. The syncopating pianoodler right here for you. He wants the guy back there who claps along with the other night, this lady back there who claps, he wants I should look into this camera. Well, I shall do such. Anyway, let me do a couple of solo numbers here for you. First one is by arguably preeminent composer of novelty piano solos, and that's all sorts of fanciest fingerings possible, 1920s primarily. Billy Mayer. This is an Englishman. He lived from 1902 to 1959, and way too young. But he left an incredible legacy of absolutely wonderful melodic pieces, beautifully rhythmic stuff. And this is a request from two of Doug's and mine, really great friends over the years, Cheryl and Jim Dexter up in Philadelphia. Yeah, they've been our angels for various CDs over the years and great friends. And here we go, Cheryl. Let's see how many right notes Alex hits in Sleepy Piano. the whole idea with that particular interpretation, sleepy piano. So you either do the whole thing sleepy or you do it moderate tempo, which means that whoever's trying to fall asleep ain't falling asleep. And then at the end, finally, I slow it up a little bit, ritardando, and it becomes truly a sleep piano. Okay, now that Cheryl, I hope that did it. But please feel free, remind me of pieces you used to like, or still like, and I'll see if I still have enough fingers to do. Now, second little item now. No, she still wants me to look over here. Second little item. I've been playing this medley forever, but for a good number of years, put it sort of on the mothballs, but not anymore. In 1931, Eddie Cantor was in a movie called Palmy Days, a film musical. Three songs that were published, every one of them rollicking, wonderful lyrics. We'll have to have this character over here sing one of them one of these days. In fact, all three of them one of these days, in one day. Yes, let me play you a piano solo medley that I recorded in the mid-1990s or so on the Stomp Off label of my own little mini fantasy from Palmy Days. The whole movie takes place sort of an industrial-sized bakery. Chorus girls in a bakery.
You beat that into submission.
Oy.
Poor piano was going to need a couple of hours to recover from that beating. Wow, Alex, wow. Well, I don't need anything else for the holidays for a gift. That's it right there. Actually,
Can I go home now?
no, you got to keep playing. Sorry, there's a few more songs. And actually, he'll be back for another interlude later to show you what else he can do with his fingers on the piano, which is amazing, I've got to tell you. Alex and my friendship started years ago when I saw him play for a former voice instructor of mine, and I followed him around at a party and never got his attention, and then so I found out where he lived, and well, that sounds kind of creepy, doesn't it? But I called him, and he invited me over, and we had a fabulous lunch at this French restaurant called Vendy's. I think I had the baguette potato and the salad, and he and his son, who was 12 at the time, and I went out, and he called my singing idiomatic, which I appreciated because before that, you can imagine the other word, it was usually just idiotic that people described my singing. But so Alex was an upgrade, and he said, so you want to sing with me, what do you think we can do with that? Well, here we are, however many years later.
I said, well, I didn't know quite what I could do for you.
Yeah. Here we are, how many years later, and we are still doing this. And we've been blessed. I've been blessed by Mr. Hassan's introduction of me to so many of his friends around the world. And these concerts, you know, there's that silver lining for you. We don't have the 50 or 60 or 70 people that we normally have here at Emerson Avenue Salonline. But because of this limitation, we are now expanded. So who knows? You could be tuning in from England or Germany or Russia or Mexico or Japan, anywhere around the world. God bless you if you're tuning in from Japan, because it's, what is it, probably tomorrow or yesterday? I don't even know. Anyway, I have the gift of gab, but if my gift of gab was an automobile, someone forgot to put brakes on it. So I will calm myself here. These days, we're more indoor people. You know, I find in my little town of Colmar Manor, Maryland, named Colmar after District of Columbia, and Mar from Maryland, most of us stay indoors, but my little pup, Louie, got me out and got me knocking on doors and seeing people on the street. And so I'm trying to start a revolution at home there in Colmar Manor of getting people out of their homes and getting to know each other again and experiencing nature. I came from people who were not urban by any means. They were rural people who had worked the land. My grandfather was a sharecropper, which people they find that hard to believe, but indeed he was. Both of my grandfathers. And no one in my family graduated high school. So my generation was the first generation to actually go beyond that. So I would go back home from the big urban land of Salem, Virginia, which, if you know Salem, isn't that urban. And I would see my grandmother, who lived on 7 little acres in South Central Virginia. And she would do for me what her dad did for her. Her father's name was James Thomas Brown. He was born around 1870, and he worked on the railroad most of his life. In fact, here's James Thomas Brown. I don't know if you can really see him that well, but there he is. That picture taken around 1900. And he would take my grandmother and walk her through the woods there nearby where she grew up and show her what berries were medicinal and what berries were dangerous, and tell her the magical stories about beings that lived in the forest. And gave her a sense of wonder and magic about nature and also a practical understanding of it. And so when I would spend time with my grandmother, though he died in 1930, she passed that on to me. And so long walks in the woods and marveling at the magic of nature and putting together at this time of year Christmas decorations. We would go out and we would gather pine cones and sometimes sycamore pods, which look like little Sputniks. And we'd take them inside the house and take her paints and paint them and sprinkle them with sparkles and glitter. And then we would create things like Christmas trees and wreaths and beautiful hanging decorations for the tree. Cranberries, we were too poor for cranberries, but someday I got to that. So I always think of my grandmother this time of year because the holidays were made magic by a lady who had very little money but limitless imagination. So we know holiday songs fall into a couple of different categories. Some of them are strictly holiday songs. Some of them are seasonal songs. So we've chosen a couple of songs here. The first one's called It's Winter Again, which I didn't know before Alex, but it was a pretty good seller in its day. And then the song that we've paired with it, I'm not going to tell you because you're going to know it. So here we go, Alex. Let's see what we can do with these two little tunes. Put the brakes on that car, Doug. When the music of the silver sleigh bells fills the air, and the moon at night finds a world of white, when Jack Frost comes from his hiding to your window pane, winter time is here. How I love it, dear. Come and cuddle by the fire in the evening. We'll forget about the snow and rain. Though the skies are stormy, your arms will warm me. It's winter again. It's so thrilling when it's chilly in the winter, and the frost is on the window pane. Hear those sleigh bells ringing? That's my heart that's singing. Oh, it's winter again. The wind may blow. Who cares? Just let it blow. I'll write to you love letters in the snow. So come and cuddle by the fire in the evening. We'll forget about the snow and rain. Though the skies are stormy, your arms will warm me. It's winter again. That's about what you get for what you're paying. Oh, maybe on the other side. It's winter again. It's winter again. The winds may blow. Who cares? Just let them blow. I'll write to you love letters in the snow. Oh, honey, come along, cuddle by the fire this evening. Come on, we'll forget about all that snow and rain. Though the skies are stormy, your arms will warm me. It's winter again. Though the skies are stormy, your arms will warm me. It's winter again. Over the ground lies a mantle of white. A heaven of diamonds shines down through the night. Two hearts are thrilling in spite of the chill in the weather. You know, love knows no season. Love knows no clime. Romance can blossom any old time. Here in the open, we're walking and hoping together. Sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight. We're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird. Here to stay is the new bird. He sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the meadow, we can build a snowman, and we'll pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, "Are you married?" We'll say, "No, man, but you can do the job when you're in town." Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire to face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland. Take us on a walk, Alex. We'll build another snowman. This time we'll pretend that he's a circus clown. We'll have lots of fun with Mr. Snowman until those other kitties knock him down. When it snows, ain't it thrilling? When your nose gets a chillin', we'll frolic and play in the most delightful way, walking in a winter wonderland. Thank you. Wonderful. Are you okay?
Finally, a song that you.
Are you okay?
Am I okay?
Yeah?
You mean I ended it with you?
No, I was just, you look like you were crawling under the piano.
Oh.
Sometimes he
Want
crawls
some
under the
shtick?
piano when I sing. It's a little loud in here.
You want some shtick? I give you shtick.
He's so silly, that Alex. Well, the next couple of songs are a little more serious. This first song was originally, I think it's 1944, and it was originally about separation due to World War II, and or perhaps the passing of that person who might have been overseas serving in the military. And the second song, I'm reading notes here so that I keep brakes on that car I mentioned earlier, was about pledging to be there in the holidays, even if only in spirit. Maybe the separated one finds a way home eventually in person. In these pandemic times, I find these songs have an entirely new poignancy. For those of us who lost loved ones this year to COVID, like my brother, Rick Bowles, whom COVID took in May, these lyrics have an all too current poignancy and sensibility. Now you can of course make these songs your own story, and maybe the separated ones will be together again on this plane, or maybe not. But always remember that the spirit is free of earthly encumbrances. So physical or not, we will never be permanently apart. January and February were never so empty and gray. Tragically, I feel like crying. Without you, my darling, I'm dying. But let's rather put it this way. Spring will be a little late this year, a little late arriving in my lonely world over here. For you have left me, and where is our April of old? You have left me, and winter continues cold, as if to say, spring will be a little slow to start, a little slow reviving that music it made in my heart. Yes, time heals all things, so why do I cling to this fear? It's merely that spring will be a little late this year. Yes, time heals all things, so why do I cling to this fear? It's merely that spring will be a little late this I'm dreaming tonight of a place I love even more than I usually do. And although I know it's a long road back, I promise you I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dream. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. Ah, sir. Why, thank you. Our crowd, our adoring crowd of 2 people. Luckily, they both have multiple personalities, so it's like there's 50 people in the room. It really is. And I've got another 10. Alex created a medley a few years ago. I'll let him tell you about it. But this is one of those times, I keep telling him this because the first one was funny and fun and virtuosic and engaging. This is one of those times when the sequel is even better than the original. And now you're going to want to hear the original, aren't you? Alex.
By Jove, actually. All right, I'm looking here. All right. One thing about my interests in playing over the years, I just don't like hearing the same thing all the time. And I get a little bit naughty. You know, there might be tunes that's beloved to everybody, but oh God, not again. You know, it's on every commercial during Christmas time. What if I really kind of screw around with the melodies and change things up? And being half Jewish, I am going to be giving you something that I feel that I can moderately get away with. I'm going to give you my Hanukkah Grand Fantasy Part 2. Someday, if you're all good, I'll play Part 1 again in a future concert. But right now, Hanukkah medley, and we'll see how quickly all of you get what kind of atrocity Alex is performing right now.
goodness, if only you could play the piano. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful friendship to have with this man. At least I have a friendship with him. I have no idea what he thinks of me. He's never told me. But he keeps performing with me, so I assume that at least he enjoys the musical part of our interaction. We've had some times together, we have, over the years.
Ultimately, this is probably the finest exponent of this period in the known universe.
Ooh.
I cannot speak of anything outside of the known universe.
I see he got the check. That's wonderful, Alex. Thank you so much. In case you're wondering what I'm looking at, it's a little monitor and Alex's little tiny head. Hello, little tiny Alex's head. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. The feelings are mutual. Alex is one of a kind, and you really can't say that about a lot of people, and he is really one of a kind. So this next little tune is called I Want You for Christmas. And of course I teach musical theater, so every song has to be about something. You know, in musical theater, we don't sing a song because it's got a hook or because it's got a great beat. We sing a song because it furthers a story. And I'm thinking of my colleagues that are watching and thinking their list of critiques is a mile long. But God bless you, my friends. I'm glad that you've joined us. So in the midst of this song, there's a line that says, "You're the pet that money can't get." And I said, oh my gosh, I think I know what this song is about for me. So, those of you that have kept up with us have probably heard me talk about my son. Well, he's not exactly my son. He's a puppy. His name is Louie, and there he is in his most seductive and romantic old-fashioned movie pose. And that's his baby, Lizzie, that he always keeps with him everywhere. I kid you not. He will not go to sleep without Lizzie. My brother said to me last year in a phone call, he said, you've done a lot of great things in your life. You've traveled all over the world. You've sung for amazing people. He said, but I think that dog's about the best thing you ever did. And I was slightly offended. And then when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? I think you're right. How's that for an intro? Christmas will soon be here. That's the one time of year it's proper to plant a stocking for Santa, hoping that he'll appear on that pleasant day when presents are given away. I just want one gift. On December 25th, I want you for Christmas. If anything that Santa could bring could never compare with you. I want you for Christmas. You're the pet that money can't get, and nothing but you will do. You see, now I just wrote a letter, and if my wish comes true, you can bet by Jimmy he'll come down that chimney with a bag full of you. Yes, I want you for Christmas. If Santa Claus will do what he should, I'm knocking on wood for him to make good. Christmas morning, baby, I've gotta have you. Oh, that's fancy. Show off. I just sent an email and a text, and if my wish comes true, you can bet by Jimmy he'll come down that chimney with a bag full of you. See, I want you for Christmas. If only Santa does what he should, I'm knocking on wood for him to make good. Christmas morning, baby, I only want you. Christmas morning, baby, I only want you. Thank you. Thank you. Why, thank you, crowd. Thank you, adoring crowd. You're so wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I should have said at the beginning of this evening that if you're lactose intolerant, there was going to be a lot of cheese this evening, so I do hope you took your lactose. This is the part of the program that Alex can take a little nap. I keep mentioning since Alex has set the pattern of telling you what our director is saying in the background, he's waving money! So I guess I'm going to wave at you the offer to remember that you are by no means required to donate, and if you're one of my students, I forbid it. But if you're one of our older supporters who maybe has gainful income and you would like to donate to us to help defray the costs of living in America, particularly the DC area, and putting together programs like this, we are more than glad to accept it. Again, no requirement, no ticket price, just whatever you feel that you can give. Emerson Avenue Salons has a ridiculously generous policy of doubling anything that you send us, and that usually carries through until the following week, or they've even been kind enough sometimes to go beyond that. So, and remember, of course, that this performance will be on YouTube in perpetuum. So you can share this with 65,000 of your dearest friends, and they are always welcome to donate as well. So thank you. And thank you for the reminder, oh, director. So in the interest of putting brakes on this wordy self, I've been invoking the spirit of my muse, Miss Grace Frances Brown, who married my grandfather, Emmett Gowan, and then later married, after Emmett passed away, a man named Taylor. So a woman of many names, Grace Frances Brown Gowan Taylor. So I'm going to share a little bit of her poetry with you tonight. She wrote over 200 poems, amateur poet, and also a painter, and you'll hear a little bit about her. This is a little bit of a blurry picture, but maybe you can see. There's a little family resemblance there. If I put on a dress and two fancy fluffy balls around my neck and boofed up my hair, I don't know. And here she is in about 1930 with my grandfather wearing a flapper dress, which is a few years out of fashion, but a doctor in the town, his wife would give her her old dresses. So that's probably a 1927 dress that she's wearing in about 1931. And the doctor's wife would cut the buttons off the dress and make my grandmother go sew other ones on. So she was generous, but really, lady, really? Anywho, I'll give you a little history of her, and I wrote it down so that the breaks would go. Grace Frances Brown was born on January 23rd, 1916, in an area called Clover Hill, Virginia, which was named after the Clover Hill Tavern, which goes back to colonial days. You would now know that area as Appomattox, which is where the contract to end the Civil War was signed. Is it over yet? I think we're still in it. Her father worked for the railroad, and her mother was a bon vivant named Lizzie Brown. And if any of you know the number Strut Miss Lizzie, it was not written for my great-grandmother, but she lived up to it. So apparently the folks around her tiny little town of Pamplin, Virginia, knew her for her wild glasses and her many hats and her saucy attitude. I mentioned earlier that my grandmother worshipped her father, James Thomas. This made it all the worse when she, on a cold winter night, lost him to heart failure in about 1930. He was about 50. They called it dropsy in those days. She told me the story of running through the woods barefoot, forgetting her shoes, and just running towards a light through the woods, the light of the nearest neighbor, and they were not near. Her father had told her to run for help, but when she returned, it was too late. Her muse, her beloved daddy, had left her at about 14 or so, and she never, ever got over that. Grandma had to quit school to help her mother. It was about 8th grade when she quit. She told me that she was given two choices. You can make those shoes last all year, or you can quit school. But if you wear those things out walking back and forth, you'll go in your bare feet. So that threat, and knowing that her mother needed help with 4 children, she decided to become, I guess the French would say, an au pair, and work for some families and try to bring in money, sewing, and those sorts of things. So quit she did from school. But stories were told by the children of the era, people that I grew up with who were in their elder years at the time, If they were alive today, they'd be well over 100. Grandma would be 105 if she were here. Anyway, stories were told of how my grandmother, a self-taught artist, would come to the classes of their little 4-room schoolhouse in Southern Virginia, and she would use colored chalk and draw holiday scenes for the children. And they remembered those scenes for the rest of their lives, and they always marveled at how they had no art classes, and yet this young girl was able to create these magical scenes for them. She was a walking, talking, artistic muse who taught herself piano, guitar, and had a deft hand with watercolors. Many of her pieces hang in the houses of those of us who descend from her. I have about 8 of them. One she painted on the last time that she and I were able to go out together on a journey through the woods, where she would tell me about the histories of barns and houses and families. And so I begged her to pull out her long ago stored away paints. And that one hangs by my bedroom, by my bed. Grandma never forgot the night her daddy died or the pain of it. But she also never forgot the wonder that he instilled in her of nature and all of its bounty. She passed that on to me. As in the summer, I would go down for several weeks, and it would be a regular part of our day to walk through the country lanes and forest trails, to make discoveries, and for her to share what James Thomas had given her with me, Grandma's little boy, she called me. She was the only person in the world to consistently call me Douglas. Don't try it. And I would give anything to hear that voice say that name again. I inherited her artistic spirit, and she did everything she could to encourage it in me. She is in my face and in my heart forever. Upon seeing me in my first high school musical, 45 Minutes from Broadway by George M. Cohan, my father did not remark on my performance. The one remembrance that I have is him blurting out, "So long as you breathe, Gracie will never die," meaning he saw my grandmother all over and in me. Her inheritance is richer than gold. And I see it in some of my friends like Lynn and Debbie and Maureen, and some of my dear friends like Michelle, you all know who you are, who embody that same kind of spirit. So I'll share a couple of poems with you. Alex is probably dying of boredom at this point, but we'll pretend you don't see that. The first is a poem that she wrote called Grandmother's Gift, and she wrote it about her grandmother, who would have been born around 1850 to 53, somewhere in there. And she made an indelible mark on my grandmother, her granddaughter. And it became so beloved that she read it every year on the radio station in her little area there near Farmville, Virginia, WFLO radio. And I think they may still be playing it every year on Thanksgiving, a recording of her. So this is Grandmother's Gift, which she wrote for her grandmother. The old house is gone now where my grandmother lived, where she made a home and raised all her kids. Torn from its site, bulldozed aside. Progress moved in after grandmother died. A weather-beaten cottage, part logs and frame, not far from the tracks and the sound of the trains. They rumbled and roared as the pans moved around, and we watched from the window those trains going down. In her yard, there were flowers, a mixture of blooms, plants from the neighbors or friends, I presume. Bordered with rocks, she had whitewashed with a broom. That fragrance still lingers like some rare perfume. Her biscuits were baked on a fire, hot and red, in an old iron skillet that stood on 3 legs. Brown and golden when she lifted the lid. Nothing tasted better than grandmother's bread. Her style was old-fashioned as the skillet she used. Her hem touched her ankles and covered her shoes. Her apron was spotless as the bonnet she wore to cover her hair that was white as the snow. Grandma made pickles and watermelon rinds, jams and jellies, and blackberry wines, sliced the ripe apples to dry in the sun, her hands never idle with work to be done. Down from the rafters, her red peppers hung, and they would set you on fire if you bit into one. There were herbs from the garden, roots from the woods. If you ever felt bad, she could make you feel good. In a chair by the fire, she would rest for a spell. Many were the stories that she had to tell. Smoking a pipe she had molded from clay. Grandma was different, and we loved her that way. The old black pot on rocks in the yard boiled all her clothes and cooked all her lard. Life wasn't easy, conveniences few. A strong determination and a positive attitude. I could see her walking down that old railroad track, her bonnet bobbing with the ruffle in the back, a woven split basket clinging to her arm. The vision is real. Grandma is gone. She taught me of hardships and how to adjust, to never complain, for life could get worse. A treasury of memories is all that she left. My life was made richer by grandmother's gift. And so Grandma carried that with her throughout her life. I won't say I never saw her upset or sad, but I always saw her recover and look for that silver lining. The great joy of her life was her children. She loved her husband, of course, but her children, I think, for her were a way of permitting her to be, continue to have that child in her speak out its voice. And she mourned their moving away for the remainder of their lives. I know she told me the saddest day of her life was when her last child moved away from home. But she did always teach me, you don't need much to be rich. You really don't. And we spend too much time these days, I think, thinking about that. How much more can I have? How much do we allow the commercial world to convince us that we're not enough and we don't have enough? It sounds old-fashioned and corny, but if you have a roof over your head and food in your belly and someone that loves you, you're rich. So she wrote this about her little house that my grandfather built along the side of the road off of Route 460 in Virginia. It's called "Would You Like to Live in a 3-Room House?" Would you like to live in a 3-room house and be a good wife? Rock the babies and tuck them in to sleep at night, stoke the heater with firewood, warming our bones any way we could in that 3-room house. 2 pretty daughters and a handsome son. It just didn't seem right that they were crowded in the corners trying to make room to sleep at night. Not enough money to add a room, not enough space to park a broom. How could I ask for a silver spoon in a 3-room house? How they grew, those children of mine, in that 3-room house. They never complained, grumbled, or whined, for it was no use. We were together like bugs in a rug. It was easy to smile and give a hug. Now I'm stranded with a coffee mug in my 3-room house. Across the state, they settled down, a bit in style, a place in the country, a home in town scattered for miles, learning to live with the human race. Too many wants, too much waste. As I sit here by the fireplace in this 3-room house. The children say, "Mama, remember the farm where bologna tasted better than steak on a bun? The cast iron range, willing to cook depression gravy and potato soup, cornbread and buttered rolls filled our stomachs and soothed our souls. Remember, Mama, how we washed our clothes in the 3-room house?" You can build a castle that touches the sky and call it home, and sit by the window and watch the world roll by and turn to stone. Or find contentment in a little house and learn too well what life is about. A lot of wealth can be done without in a 3-room house. And finally, and the crowd goes wild. This is a poem that she wrote because as a child growing up, she would see other children get things, and she didn't get things. She said an orange in the heel of her stocking was a great present, which in those days it probably was a miracle in December to get an orange. But she wrote this because she thought of herself and she thought of all the children in the world for whom Santa brought simpler fare, or perhaps none. And she always thought of them every Christmas. It's called Commercial Santa Claus. I do not think that it is fair when the Christmas season is in the air. Santa Claus is everywhere, promising to bring a sleigh, a doll, a childish toy to every little girl and boy, building hopes to be destroyed when a few won't get a thing. I wonder how a child must feel when Jim rides by on his bright red wheel and not one orange was in the heel of the stockings that he hung. I know that Santa came this way, but he forgot to bring my sleigh. Can I go out where others play and say he didn't come? There are toys in the store, my shiny sleigh, and many more. Yet he went right beyond my door and didn't even stop. I do not think that it is wise for Santa to commercialize and put a glow in childish eyes that could disintegrate. If I had the power to change the laws, I'd wipe out another clause, the one that wears the long red drawers, for he discriminates. And my grandmother was an activist. So, thank you for spending a few moments with me and bringing my beloved grandmother back. And as we wind up our show, this is a song that Eddie Cantor made famous. Alex and I did a little retooling of the bridge, extended it a little bit. So there's a little Alex, Hassan, and Doug Bowles in this song. But we hope you enjoy it. It's called All I Want for Christmas Is Just to Keep the Things That I've Got. What do I want for Christmas? It's simple and it's plain. It isn't tied with ribbons or wrapped with cellophane. If Santa passes by my stocking, I promise not to mind a lot. The only thing I want for Christmas is just to keep the things that I've got. A pair of loving arms around me, a garden of forget-me-nots. The only thing I want for Christmas is just to keep the things that I've got. A friend or two, a sunny sky of blue, a place that I can call my own, a fond caress, and heaven bless us. These are the things that we remember. So if Santa passes by my chimney, I'll still be happy, like as not. 'Cause the only thing I want for Christmas is just to keep the things that I've got. So of course the time has come to say goodnight and say thank you for being with us. To thank our friends Jackie and Bill of Emerson Avenue Salons.com for having us. They've become like family, and we've been here many times now. So it really does feel like we're doing this show from our own living room, and that's a very special feeling indeed. I hope that this year you'll just stay home, stay safe, stay masked, stay distant. There's always the phone, there's always Zoom, and there's always memories to keep you warm. We'll be together again, I promise. A friend or two, a peaceful sky of blue, a place that we can call our own, a fond caress, and heaven bless us. These are the things that we'll remember. If Santa passes by your chimney, honey, you'll still be happy like as not. 'Cause the only thing we need for Christmas is just to keep the things that we've got. Yes, the only thing we need for Christmas is just to keep the things, just to keep the things. It's just to keep the things that we've got. So of course, this is our opportunity. We've gone over the time a little bit, but we just simply can't cut this final song. We are obviously not doing another song or another show during 2020, so you'll see us again in 2021, we promise, just maybe not quite as quickly as you've seen us thus far, because we're going to do what's right and we're going to look out for one another. I hope you'll do the same. And before we say goodnight, this is a song that we all know, but it has over the years filtered away from its original film score lyric and is often sung with a more generalized lyric. And as we started looking over this piece to choose it for tonight, I looked at what Judy Garland actually sings in the film and how apropos it was to its wartime origin and how apropos it is to now. So we send you hearts full of love. We send you this musical gift, and we thank you for being with us tonight, and we wish you the very, very best at the end of 2020 and as we move into a bright new year. Let it be a new day dawning, and I don't think I need to tell you what the name of this song is. You'll know. Christmas future is far away. Christmas past is past. Christmas present is here to stay, bringing joy that will last. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Come on, let your heart be light. Next year, all our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year, all our troubles will be miles away. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who were dear to us, they'll be near to us once more. Someday soon, we all will be together if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. And have yourselves a merry little Christmas now. Happy holidays, everyone.